Hi, I'm Chris from Future Music Magazine, and we're here with Niels Larsen from Nektar, who's going to be showing us the new Panorama P1 controller.
Yes, thank you, Chris. We're going to show you the Panorama P1 working with Cubase, our new Cubase implementation that works with all the Panorama products. And the P1, let's just first take a quick look at that. We have 9 faders here, 8 LED buttons. There's 16 encoders in total, so one row of 8 up here and another 8 at the top. And then we have transport buttons over here. 11 transport buttons that also double up as 11 F keys. And then we have our main navigation buttons, and probably most important, the mode buttons up here that basically allows you to switch in real time between what Panorama is controlling. So right now I'm in mixer mode, and if I move a fader, I'm able to control volume, not surprisingly, on channel 1. And of course the other faders are similarly linked to the mixer. So if we want to see that, I can bring up the mixer by pressing the view button over here, and I'm now able to control up to 8 channels at one time. We probably should try and create a few more tracks, so I'll just use a QWERTY macro shortcut to add a few more tracks there to the mixer. And now I can navigate over and control that second bank of channels, or use the LED buttons to select which channel the focus is on at this point in time. These LED buttons also double up as mute buttons, so if I press this button here, I'll be able to toggle so that now we are able to switch mute on and off, and I press one more time, and at this point we're controlling solo. Up here, the first row of 8 encoders is controlling pan. So you can see that's all happening up there. But if I press the button here to the right, I'm able to now change the assignment, and I can see that in the display here. Now it's assigned to send 1, and I can just go through all the different sends. That's 8 in total, and then back to pan. So this can be very quickly reassigned. This row of encoders, or rather these 2 rows of encoders, control the channel strips. So these are the menus that we have on the display down here, starting with EQ. So if I press EQ, I'm now first able to enable the EQ for the current channel. And I can see in the display that we are operating mixer channel number 3. And now I have access to frequency and gain and cut. Change the assignments of the lower row of encoders to Q, and then back to frequency again. And if I change the track, then of course I'm now controlling the EQ for the currently selected track. So
can we just see the EQ display doing that?
We can. Let's see. The easiest way is probably to show it here. So if I'm now going to enable the 4 bands, and I'll just quickly move a few controls and do something incredibly non-musical. And that's how it works. So the key thing is that you don't need to look at your computer screen when you operate Panorama. Everything is right here in the display. Of course you can, but that is the whole philosophy behind Panorama, that wherever you are, you're able to change parameters and you know what you're doing, so you can just go ahead and do it without having to reorganize things that are actually on the display.
And you mentioned the assignable sort of QWERTY keyboard shortcuts. Are they programmable?
Yes, they're fully programmable. So we have the ability to create macros. So you can actually send up to 8 shortcut commands to the computer. And what I did when I created a track here, I'm just using my F keys to trigger the QWERTY macros. So in this case, we've done a simple macro where we're creating an audio track and also pressing enter at the same time. So it's just 2 keystroke commands, but that allows you to create the audio track and not have to, reach for the enter button. So it's a nice little touch. You can do much more complex stuff, and it's of course works with any DAW that responds to QWERTY commands. So it's a nice addition to the controller. Going back to the main mixer view here, we of course also have inserts. So let's take a look at that. Now the insert slots, there's 8 in Cubase, and here we're able to first select plugins. So I press the plugin button, and then I turn the data control, and I'm able to select any of the plugins that are installed on my system. So let's say, for example, I'm going to control the tube. So that comes up here on the display. I can remove it again from the display and just control it from Panorama. Let's bring it back into view. And pressing Edit, I'm able to immediately control the parameters over here. If I go back to the inserts, I can use the data control to select which insert slot I want to operate. And again, let's just choose a different plugin here, compressor, and press Edit, and now I'm able to control all the parameters of the compressor. So we've mapped out all the plugins that come with Cubase, so you don't have to do that. And whenever there's more parameters than actually fits on the screen, we have a menu system that allows you to just select exactly the area that you want to work with. And I'll show you that in more detail in instrument mode, because there we really needed a lot of instrument plugins have a lot more parameters than inserts. That's the principle of how we operate with insert plugins. Similarly, if I press FX Sends, I have a view that is looks a little bit like the insert page. So I can here press the Send button and change the assignment of what I'm sending to. So the send options vary, of course, depending on your project, but in this case, I've just created this, the default Roomworks reverb. And so I'm sending to that right now on both send 1 and 2. And I can change the level, the send level right here, and it displays for all 8 sends right here in the display, the values. So one step back, and finally we have access to quick controls and also the channel strip. This is really for automation, so if I want to record automation, then I can just press the right button and start moving controls. So that's the principle of mixer mode. Any questions?
Yes. So can you add different types of tracks? Can you add a group track? Can you add a instrument track from the mixer page? Is that?
You can. The way that Cubase doesn't actually give you any remote control access to creating tracks. So the way you do that is you set up a QWERTY macro like I did for audio tracks. And I've just created that one real quick to show you that it's one use of QWERTY macros.
So you could set up a QWERTY macro to create an effects,
right.
a send channel, and then add all your...
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we have 10 F-keys maps in the unit, so that means that you can have 11 assignments in each map, and you can then switch between any of the 10 that you have available. So first, let me just take a look at. First, we need to select a synth track. So in this case, I've created a synth track which is assigned to Predator. So if I press instrument mode, first I get the homepage view, which basically is assigned to commonly used parameters. It's possible to learn parameters also with the system, but basically we're doing most of the mapping, so you don't have to, and that's particularly because complex mapping is really not that easy to do for users. So let's try something simple. I'm just going to change the assignment here. Currently this control is assigned to main volume, and what I'm going to do is press the learn button, and then I'll move filter over here, and then the control and now I'm controlling the filter with this control. So even if the plugin doesn't have it, we actually enable that.
So, as you just showed the sort of the MIDI learn that isn't MIDI learn, as it were, using Panorama. These sort of pre-maps, are they something that you have to keep updated at your end? As in, like, is that firmware update? If somebody launches a new plugin, does that work automatically, or is it just a firmware update for the device? How does that work?
Yeah, so if there's a new plugin out, Panorama will automatically read all the parameters that are controllable, and but will assign them in ways that, in the order that they're presented by the plugin. And that's not always what you want. That's where you then can use the learn function to create your own setup. After maybe if it's a popular plugin, after a while we'll probably create our own map for it. We feel it's really important to support the product with good solid mapping, because we can make a much more comprehensive map file than.
And you can find out of the users, like, where they want ADSR or where they want
Right.
cut off, that kind of thing, where they prefer to have it. And I guess you can create a kind of consistency.
Yes.
So no matter what plugin you are, this one's always cut off, or
Right. Exactly.
in theory that you could have so you're always grabbing that for filter no matter what synth it is.
Exactly. And actually we do that already with the recent implementation. We from the beginning decided to have the envelopes on the faders. It just seemed, like the most intuitive thing to do. So in this case, as we called up Predator, I'm also controlling the envelope with the faders here. And the minute I'm in instrument mode, I'm able to control the envelopes of Predator using the faders. I don't have to look at the envelope display to do that. And the home page tells you, of course, well, you got filter cutoff already assigned up here, and we have resonance up here. So a lot of the sort of go-to parameters that you want to control are here right away. But then the minute you press menu, up pops an overview of all the different sections of Predator that are available. So let's say, for example, I want to control the oscillator. I select the oscillator, and the oscillators are now controllable from these encoders up here. And press this button, I go to oscillator 2, and I still have access to my envelopes over here. So we feel this works pretty well. It's nice to have both envelopes available right there, and then just change what you're controlling up there. And everything's mapped out for Predator. It's a pretty comprehensive synth, and it sounds absolutely wonderful. But you can control, for example, arpeggiation and also the modulation matrix. This is one of the issues with VST plugins that it is a little bit of a problem that not everybody, not all plugin developers are as thorough in implementing controller assignments as Rob Pappen has been. And it's wonderful to see. A lot of them are great, but there's a few out there, where you may be disappointed that you can't control everything, but you probably know that already if you own the plugins. So.
Okay. And if I do change a parameter, say I want my filter on here.
Mm-hmm.
If I save the session, how do I save that so that next time I open Predator in a week, it's already there?
So this is not finalized. The user configuration for that has not been finalized. We want to make it as simple as possible. So right now what we have is menus for our own internal learn function. So it may be a little bit different in the final implementation. But once learn mode is on, I will of course have a save option, and in this case I have, wait, I have to, you can actually see it here on display.
Okay.
It pops up. But as I said, this is really for our purpose at this point.
So there'll be a save as, so you can create Predator Live, Predator Studio, Predator, you can have different types.
Right.
Okay.
But I would be really surprised if you didn't find it easier to just use what we've already done for you. I'd be really surprised. We see this with recent users. With Reason, you can also use remote override. But by the time you're done with that, you could have changed the menu assignments on Panorama twice over. So, it's one of the real powerful aspects of Panorama is how quick it is to work with. Just going from, to the mixer, to switch on the EQs, tweak parameters, all of these kind of things. It's so quick to do here. It's quicker than reaching for the mouse and finding the parameter on screen.
So how many sort of pre-mapped synths are you going to have at launch, do you think? Like, are you going to have all the major ones, basically?
Yeah. All the major ones, that's the goal. We have a pretty good process now for mapping plugins. Everything that comes in with Cubase is already mapped now. And on top of that, of course, there will be all the major suppliers of VSTIs.
And is there any extra layer of control for the Cubase plugins because they're built in? Does it offer anything else?
No.
Okay. And so you can't save synth presets using.
That's a good question. I would have to investigate that. I don't know. It's possible that you could save if you can any function like that. If you can access it from the computer keyboard, you can access it from Panorama.
Okay, so that could be good. So you could twiddle.
Yes.
Save.
Just press save. Yeah. That's how I would look at it. Any functionality that you can normally do from the computer keyboard, you can use Panorama. And the nice thing is that if there's multiple steps because of the macros, you can do it with one button press instead of having to click 3 or 4 times.
So moving on, let's transport and internal modes there. Maybe run us through
Yes. One thing actually I'd like to just quickly show you is that if, for example, now we're working with Predator, and I showed you before how in mixer mode we can work with the plugins. So we'll just quickly select a plugin here for Predator, and let's see, the brick wall limiter, maybe not. It doesn't really matter which one we choose. But now I have, pressing the edit button, I have all the parameters assigned to Panorama over here. And if I press instrument button, then I have my parameters for Predator assigned. So that means that I can very, very quickly go from one plugin to another, just like that. It's a very neat functionality. It's literally just one button press and you're controlling your effects chain.
Is there any way to change the focus?
What would you like to focus on?
So when you switch to instrument, Predator pops in front of that compressor there.
Oh, I see. Because Panorama is designed to work in a way where you're not affecting the screen unless you absolutely want to. We don't do that, and that's because it's not always desirable for people to have that happen. But if you press the view button, then that is exactly what will happen. So if I press the view, button here, I can of course bring up the compressor, bring them in and out.
So it does do it. It's just.
It does do it. Yes,
Just in a different way.
It's an extra operation. The way that we look at it is that you should be able to operate Cubase or whatever DAW we're supporting without having to look at your computer display. You might be doing editing or something else,
Or looking at the spectrogram.
Exactly. So we don't want to confuse with too many windows that pop up. We want to be able for you to be able to see the windows that are currently in focus on Panorama when you want to, but not whenever you do something, so to speak. So moving on to transport mode. Here we have a readout of the current song position. So if I press play, you see the bars and beats change up here. We're able to change the tempo using the encoders over there. Yeah, so you have access pretty much to all the transport-related functionality, which we implemented really so that you can create, start and create your song from Panorama, and you don't have to go back to the computer or reach for your mouse every time you just want to, change tempo or switch click on and off. So you can do all of this directly from Panorama.
And I guess the function keys again, you could assign if you wanted to drop markers and all of that kind of stuff.
Yes, this menu here in transport mode actually has markers and cycle and zoom settings, so you'll be able to do all of that. We haven't actually implemented that yet,
But it's going to be there.
It's going to be there. Yeah.
And what's internal mode then?
So internal mode is the generic MIDI controller functionality of Panorama. So here you have the ability to program every single control with whatever MIDI messages you want to send out. So internal mode takes it out of that direct communication, and that means you can set up anything you want here to control, or send out MIDI messages as you prefer. And that means if I go into the mixer mode, and I have created a setup for an external hardware device, I'm selecting a MIDI track, I can just press internal, and then maybe my map or my preset assignment here could be controlling a hardware set, exactly.
Or a rack unit. And will we see possible templates for that mode? So, for popular rack hardware? And
we have some, yes, there's some already. We don't
Is there a user community for that? Because that seems like a great thing to share. If people had it, they could,
We would
racks.
love if our users, would use that functionality, because in my mind, Panorama is one of the best, if not the best, MIDI controller out there. Just looking at the standalone generic MIDI controller capabilities, it's so easy to program. If you press Control Edit, here I have the ability to just select a control, and I can immediately change the MIDI CC up here. And as I'm changing it, it's actually live, so I could just be using this one control to change MIDI CCs of 3 or 4 different kinds.
And is it possible to learn in the same way?
Yeah.
So if I had a rack unit, I could send MIDI CC out of it.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. No, there's not two-way communication in that respect. Okay. It's something that is a little bit on the wish list. That would be a good thing.
How much is it going to be in Europe, UK, US, and when can we get it?
So British pounds is going to be 219, and euros is 269, and US dollars is 299.
And that's street price?
That's street price.
Oh. And you said there's something else?
Yes.
Something extra, bonus?
Let me show you something that we're working on. People always ask us, is it going to be able to control, other software? And because we're showing this at the NAMM show, I can actually show you right now. And this is Bitwig Studio, great new piece of software from Bitwig, a company that's based in Berlin, and it's really a wonderful product. They and they have been working on an implementation here where Panorama will actually talk to Bitwig Studio, and the principle is the same. So if you are in mixer mode, you're controlling the mixer, and you can see that it's all happening here with pans and volume control, and I can drag in maybe an instrument over here. So let's take the polysynth and drop that in. And if I then press instrument mode, then I'm able to control the polysynth over here. And we have all the different sections of the synth already mapped out like that. If I drop in an EQ or delay, then I'm able to control those too. So in this case, I'm controlling the delay, use the data control to step back. And I can see on the display all the time which device I'm actually controlling, because that readout is clear in our info bar there at the top. And then finally, of course, transport mode as well. So again, no matter which DAW you're using, the principle of controlling is the same. So once you've learned Panorama, you're actually in a pretty good position to control almost any DAW that we are supporting. And this is just is going to be a great implementation for people who want to use Bitwig Studio. Launch clipping may be a question. This unit does not have it does have the ability to trigger launch clips, but it's not a main feature of. But if you put a launch pad underneath, I think you've got a pretty decent setup.
So, what can we expect? How many sort of doors are you looking to be in charge of by the end of the year? I mean, we've got Cubase, Reason, Bitwig, when it's
Studio.
finally
Yeah,
released.
yeah.
Logic.
Yeah, we are asked a lot about Logic. What we're doing is we're basically looking at every single door to see what's possible. And right from the beginning, our philosophy was to do, at least, let's say, one door right, instead of trying to do, 9 doors, and they were sort of not not that well implemented. So that's why we chose to just focus on Reason in the beginning. And we frankly did not know if it was possible to do the same thing with Cubase. So this was a big question mark. As we then dived more into Cubase, we realized that we could. And this is sort of part of our process, is to look at a door, and rather than say, yeah, we're going to support them all, only make that announcement once we know that we actually can deliver something that's up to par with what else we're doing.
So far it looks like Bitwig is that door. So no Ableton.
Ableton requires some work on their part. They don't have a public SDK, and we would love to work with them on that. But that's not something that is easy for us to do at this point.
Okay.